Hey guys, it's Chris Wong. For this video, I'd like to talk about how I'm getting monthly distributions every single week and the pattern it follows based on the funds I have. So as a disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy who's interested in building a portfolio. So nothing in this video is financial advice. This is what I do for myself. I do recommend research the funds before you invest in them. I do like to have a variety of funds in my portfolio. I think it's important to have different payout dates, different exposure to different fund managers, different fund investment companies, different exposure to different markets, just to protect myself. In the very case that even an ETF stops functioning, goes down, then at least I have the other funds, ETFs, to back me up. So based on my investment experience for the last 2-3 years, I found out that based on what I hold, I seem to have a pattern of having dividends every single week. So at the beginning of the month, usually I get dividends from the Defiance funds. So like JEPY, QQQY, and IWMY, which they all have exposure to the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, and the Russell 2000. I also started getting a position in SPYT, which is also the S&P 500. So for week 2 of the month, I would get my Canadian funds from Hamilton ETF and Harvest, and also Purpose ETF as well. Even I would get Global X or Horizons ETFs as well. So funds I would invest in would be HYLD, which is Hamilton ETF that has entire US market exposure. There's USCL, which is the S&P 500 by Global X, and there's QQCL, which is the NASDAQ 100. And I will also have exposure to YTSL, which is just a Tesla ETF, and PDIV, which is a Purpose Enhanced Dividend Fund. Those last two are by the Purpose ETFs. For week 3, I would generally get dividends from Brompton funds and Middlefield. So for the Brompton funds, I have investments in GDV and SBC. So GDV is an exposure of many companies, including some international ones, and SBC is exposure to banks. So those two are like split funds and they're not ETFs. For Middlefield, I hold RS, which is Real Estate Split Corp, and I also hold ENS, which is just based on Enbridge. Also for week 3 and maybe for week 2 as well, I hold the YieldMax All-in-One ETF, so YMAX, and I also hold ULTY. So at least that gives me my US exposure as well. And then for week 4, I have REC shares, so FEPI, which gives me exposure to the top 15 tech companies, which are also listed on the NASDAQ 100. And then I also have exposure to the Curve ETF Tesla, so TSLP. And then I also have SVOL, which is by Simplify ETFs. And then recently in my RSP account, I decided to get the Roundhill S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 versions, XDTE and QDTE, which are actually weekly distribution funds. So I do have a lot more funds than that. It's just an example of what I currently own now that covers monthly distributions every single week, and it gives me opportunity to decide whether to reinvest into other funds, or let's say in the future if I decide to use more dividends for expenses or once in a while expense, then I can decide when I get paid the dividend. Some people say I'm way too diversified because I have 35 different funds on my Wealthsimple account, but I'm actually more invested in like the first 10 or 15 funds, and then the last 20 or 25 funds, I actually have much smaller holdings I may think about trying to reduce some of them if I think the returns are not as good. But when I decide to invest in them, I just want some more higher yield funds, or I just want to diversify a bit more. Because some of these funds are also owned by the same ETF providers I just listed earlier. And I do have a couple funds that are also a separate fund, but it's actually within the big funds I just listed earlier, like HYLD, or if I have HDIF as the Harvest ETF, then it may have a fund that's within it. So that's my other exposure. I probably just have it just because of the higher yield. I hope you guys liked the video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Otherwise, please subscribe to my channel for future videos. Thank you guys for watching.